Well, first of all, can you tell me any stories about your childhood?
My childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in New York. I was born in New York, in Queens County. I had an older brother, a year older than I was. His name was Thomas Joseph. When he was 5, he had an appendectomy. He died as a result of that. So that's how I got his name. I asked for his name. Like I was just a year younger than he was. I went to kindergarten for 2 years because I guess I was a problem. They kept me an extra year in kindergarten. I was probably 4 when I started kindergarten. I went to Catholic grade school, and I went to Catholic high school. I went to Our Lady of Wisdom Academy in New York for 2 years. Then I transferred here to St. Augustine when I was in the 10th grade. And I graduated here in 1944, entered the convent shortly after that, 1944, and I've been here ever since.
Was there a particular moment or a particular incident where you found your calling?
I'm sure the Lord was after me from probably the 7th or 8th grade, sort of bothering me about it. Then when I went to high school, I was very impressed with the nuns there. I loved the nuns I had in grade school too. They were Dominicans. But when I came here, I found the nuns here very much friendlier. They were not as distant with the students as the North itself tends to be, more standoffish than the church in the South, actually. That's the thing that I found in the South the most was how friendly the sisters and the priests were, to the people here. My calling probably was confirmed at my mother's funeral. When my mother died, I can remember walking behind the coffin. I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and it hit me very hard then that I was called to religious life.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What was it exactly that you were feeling?
I don't really know. I don't tend to be very emotional, so I don't know that I can go beyond what I said. I love my mother very much, and it was a very sudden death for her. And however, I never lived with my mother or my father. I was raised in another family, a very good Catholic family that I love very much too. So, but I knew my parents well. I saw them a lot. However, my mother died. She couldn't have been more than 30, 35 years old when she died. And then my father married again. I have a half-sister who's about 18 years younger than I am. What else can I tell you about my life?
You're fascinating. So that's why I'm sitting here just trying to drill down and learn more about you. I want to skip ahead. I remember when I first met you, you talked about sitting on the porch, looking out
Mm-hmm.
into the woods or wherever the location was when you were writing the book.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that time and I guess how you were inspired and sort of the process of that event?
I was definitely inspired. I was in a different world completely, because when I look back at the book now, I don't remember specifically writing all of that, and I'm sure the Lord must have wanted it done the way it was done. Where I sat was looking out over a lake. It was in Crescent City. We have a convent in Crescent City, and I would go there on Saturday, or Sunday really. Sunday morning I think I used to go and stay there till Wednesday morning, and I'd come home on Wednesday. So I worked on, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday on the book for about a year, I guess, a year and a half. And then I finished it in that time and put it together sort of hurriedly, I guess, trying to get it over with so I could continue my other work on a full-time basis at that time. But as I said, now when I go back to look at things that people ask me about and I look at it, I don't specifically remember writing it. I mean, I remember the letters. I remember choosing the letters that I wanted to. There are many more letters. There are over 100 letters that we have. but I tried to choose ones that would tell the most about what the sisters were doing at that time and how the congregation grew and the kinds of things that we did, you know, how we took care of a lot of people. That's why we have a lot of friends, I think. We were very kind to everybody. They didn't have to be black or white. They had no color for us or religion either. And we helped the poor. We took many children in school free, and even gave them lunch if they didn't have their lunch. So we should be very blessed as a result of being, you know, that kind of people, which basically we are.
Is there a particular letter, either in the book or outside of the book, that maybe you identified with or touched you in particular?
I don't know. One was better than the other. I mean, you know, they all wrote from their heart. Like the nuns that started this congregation that came here to St. Augustine, whatever they said was so truthful. And what impressed me the most is there's not a complaint of any kind in any letter. They never complained about the heat. They came from Le Puy, France, which is it's in the mountains, the Pyrenees Mountains in south central France, and it's never hot there. It's not real cold, except the winter is very cold, but they have a little bit of a relief. But I was amazed that there was never a complaint about the mosquitoes, the bugs, you know, in the Spanish moss. Like those were the mattresses were made of Spanish moss and full of red bugs. And they were bitten alive, I'm sure. They had good, rich blood when they came here. So they were prey for whatever bugs were around, and there were plenty in the O'Reilly house at that time. It had been closed for a period of time, and it was not exactly the most sanitary building to go into either, I think. And the nuns who slept in the attic must have burned up. The attic has only 2 windows, one on the east and one on the west, and it has only a wooden roof. There's no insulation of any kind. And how they didn't say they were hot, they never even said they were hot. We're always saying we're hot. We always want to be in air. The big thing today was, oh, it's air conditioned over there. You'll be in a nice air conditioned place. You'll be comfortable. So what? You know, other people put up with a lot of other things. They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't look for it either. Today's world, we look for comforts all the time, but we don't come from that kind of a congregation that looked for comforts, obviously. The bishop that called us here, I guess you know this, went to school to the Sisters of St. Joseph in Le Puy. He was born in Le Puy. So he knew the sisters well, and I guess he knew that he would get a group that would really work hard with the black people, particularly the ones that he wanted us to work with, and we did that.
Do you have any particular stories about that in your generation here? Because this has kind of remained a little bit of a...
In my generation, like we went through the civil rights movement, you know, in the 60s, which we did not participate in at all. Like the church requested us not to. The bishop thought we shouldn't be participating, which we didn't do. It was a terrible experience, though, for the people. I was in Jacksonville at the time. I wasn't here. But what you put together now as best you can, it certainly was not a good time. The city was not very nice to the black people. They tried to kill Martin Luther King, clearly. I don't know. Like recently, you know, they've tried to make amends for that, but I question how sincere that is. When you look around and you see what goes on, you wonder, you know, was that for sure? You know, was it real? I don't know. I don't really know. You just have to pray about it, I guess. And the black people have put up with a lot. A whole lot, at the expense of white people.
I love your honesty.
Thank you.
And candid. What has been, where do you feel like you've made the most progress?
The most progress? I guess in researching the history of the congregation and, you know, putting it together and making it available to the nuns and, you know, to the people that are interested in it. We sold a lot of books. Like, I was amazed when they tallied it up. Like, we have sold many, many books. We've worked throughout the state of Florida. We also worked in Georgia, but Georgia was separated from us in the late 1800s, actually. However, those nuns that were there always felt their mother house was here, you know, and felt a connection there.
So I guess my two-part question was, where do you think you've made the most progress? And
Well, personally, you know, in religious life, I mean, hopefully I've made progress in my own spiritual life. If I haven't, it's my own fault. But God's been good to me, and I feel I've made progress there. Made a little bit of progress in the archives when I worked in the archives. It helped me really put the book together. I mean, that's where I found the information, and it really turned me on when I found the letters. And then there was a friend of ours that who was a French teacher. She's a Canadian, actually, but she taught here in St. Augustine. In the public schools, I was very friendly with the sisters, and she was happy enough to translate the letters into English, which helped me. I knew a little bit of French. I took French in high school in the north. The nuns I went to school to were French, so we all had to take French there. Here, they didn't teach French at all. We had to take Spanish and Latin here. But anyway, that's how I got into the book at all, was when I found the letters, and I could read some of them, but not thoroughly. So the woman who helped us was very gracious and came every day and worked on the letters for us. And that's how I really had I really put that together. And it was not my idea to write the book. Like the idea to write the book was the General Superior's idea, who said she thinks I should write the story, since I was always talking about these letters and the things that I had found in the archives. So she probably wanted me to stop talking about it and do something with it. So she asked me to write the book. So that's how I got to do the book. She sent me to France at that time, and it was in 2004. I really didn't want to go. I had been there a couple of times before, and I'd been to the Mother House several times. But anyway, I went, and I went with a group of nuns that were from the north. They were not from the same foundation that we came from originally. We came from the original foundation of the Sisters of St. Joseph, where they were founded. All the other St. Josephs in the United States just about came from Lyon, and that was a refoundation after the French Revolution, and that's where they came from. From the big city are much more sophisticated. From Le Puy, we are peasants. We're different. We really are. We stand in the crowd like there's a federation of the Sisters of St. Joseph, and if you ever attended that, you know that we're different. We're not quite the same. But they love us, and we love them. We all get along very well.
Is there, I guess the other side of that, where do you feel like maybe you haven't made the progress you want, or is there something that you struggle with that you wish either society would come along, or whether something you could make happen within the church?
We struggle with vocations, trying to get vocations. I mean, we're not the only ones struggling with it. It's an international problem, I think, at this time, although there are some newer congregations that are attracting young people, and most of them are in habit, wearing the habit. The habit seems to tell some story to people, that some people want to see it. They want to know if you're a nun. I work in the O'Reilly House, and I've worked there since we opened in '03. And it dawned on me, time after time, day after day, many times a day, people would say, "Are you a nun?" Because I was out of the habit. And I got tired of saying, "I'm a nun," so I wear the veil. I don't have to say it anymore. And it's interesting to see how many people are relieved when they look at you, and then how many are not relieved when they see you. They're afraid of nuns. They don't know nuns. So they have a different attitude, but it makes life interesting. And you're able to talk to the people where they are. Whether they're afraid, you can say something nice to them. If they're not afraid, you can say something not nice. And they laugh.
That whole mystique
Mm-hmm.
of being a nun and using that power to your advantage,
Yeah.
where have you used that before?
Well, I never looked at it as power, Actually, the power that you had, like I was a teacher in a classroom, automatically you have some power over children. At least you hope you have a little bit of control of them. If you don't, you've lost. You don't teach them anything except how to be out of order and not learn too much. I don't think that personally that I ever overused it as power. You try to give good example. I have many, former students. I mean, I'm in the congregation 70 years, so a lot of people already passed that I had in school, and I'm still here waiting for God to call me. I don't know what he's waiting for, this movie maybe, or whatever this thing is you're doing. Maybe I can rest after this. I don't know.
Well,
Did I answer your question?
yeah, you did. You did. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? To see people happy. See children who are content, who can get that problem solved and feel good about it. Spell the word correctly and say, I got it, I can't. It makes me happy. See people be successful and be happy with what they're doing, not complaining. We come from a group that didn't complain. So we try. I mean, I don't know if everybody tries not to complain. I don't really know, but I know that I try not to complain, but I'm sure I do. When it's hot, I say it's hot. When I'm melting in the Riley House, we don't have any air conditioning. You're not allowed to in that building, but it gets pretty hot. It's going to be 90 today. The rest of the week, it's going to hit 90, they're saying. They seem to be more accurate about heat than about rain here. They never have it right about the rain. But anyway, that's how they do it. We live with it anyhow.
In terms of if there was a story that when we come back that you, because this is all about your stories, is there a story that you haven't shared that wasn't maybe part of the book, but there's something that you think about being a sister of St. Joseph is the story for you?
Well, something that I left out of the book deliberately. We have 2 nuns who are buried in Fernandina whose bodies are incorrupt, which means they're saints. I didn't put it in the book because it's too sensational, and I felt when people would get to that, they'd say, it's a lot of baloney. There are people that don't believe in that at all. But their bodies were interred. They were buried right in front of St. Michael's Church in Fernandina. They died in 1877 in the yellow fever epidemic, nursing the people there. And when they were buried in front of the church, St. Michael's Church. But I think in the 40s or 50s, there was some work going on the streets there. They had to move the bodies. And the undertaker who was asked to take care of that was not a Catholic. And his story is written up in a bulletin that came out from Fernandina. And it said that when he started to break into the ground, he could smell the roses. So he opened the coffins, and their bodies were incorrupt. They're buried now in Boscbello, which is the big cemetery in Fernandina. Beautiful, beautiful place, really. We have about 8 or 10 nuns buried there. But that's a very important story to us. But as I said, I didn't put it in the book because I felt there were many people that would just not even continue reading the book because they wouldn't want to believe it, Catholic and un-Catholic. It doesn't matter. A lot of people would say that's a lot of baloney. People say that. Not everybody, but some would say that. So I didn't want to take that chance that they'd say, well, this is full of stuff, that I'm not going to read it. So I left that out.
That needs to make it in the documentary then.
Well, yeah, it would be a nice thing to have in the documentary. I think that it would be. Coming from you would be, from that would be different than coming directly from one of us,
Sure.
They'd say that nun had a dream. It's a very sensitive area for a lot of people. You may not have experienced that, but I have. So that's a very important story to us. Not that we would move them for canonization. Like, we probably would not do that because we're not that kind of people. We're sort of laid back. We're peasants, so we don't do that. It takes a lot of money that you have to pay the church a lot of stuff to get all that done too, which seems unnecessary. If somebody's a saint, they're a saint. Like, we know they're saints.
Right.
Yeah.